Good morning. My name is Michael Thompson, and I'm the Director of the Council of State Government's Justice Center. I have the privilege of kicking the meeting off and introducing some extraordinary speakers that we have here this morning. Before doing so, I first want to thank many of you who braved some pretty extraordinary conditions last night and joined us on Capitol Hill. We know just how committed you are to this issue by coming to Washington, but you really demonstrated it in spades going through all that you did. And I know many of you are still drying out shoes and other things this morning. So thanks again for not only for being here, but also being here last night. So a lot of us in this room go to lots of national conferences focusing on a variety of issues, but I can't recall an instance where literally all 50 states came together along with territories and some large urban areas, all came together, all the heads of the corrections departments from across the country, governors, key staff, legislative leaders, judicial leaders, again, from all 50 states coming together to talk about the issues of reentry and recidivism. It really is quite extraordinary, and we are so grateful to have you here. And the reason we were able to do this is because we have some fantastic partnerships with different organizations. I'll mention many of them in a little while, but I wanted to focus first on ASCA, the Association of State Correctional Administrators, and all the work that they did in partnership with us here, as well as some fantastic partners in the federal government, at the Department of Justice, in the Bureau of Justice Assistance, specifically in the Office of Justice Programs, and our partners in philanthropy, the Pew Center on the States, Public Safety Performance Project, and the Public Welfare Foundation. We're so grateful to all of you for helping make this possible. You're here because for many years now, as you all know, reentry has really become a priority for governors and legislators and corrections directors across the country. It wasn't that long ago that President Bush, as you know, or then President Bush actually mentioned it in his State of the Union speech. And of course, some of the great work kicked off under the Clinton administration, really demonstrating that this issue is truly bipartisan, spanning all political perspectives. The trick has been, I think, how to translate all of this work in reentry into the actual business of reducing recidivism, which is why we're here today. And we are thrilled to have not only members of the administration here, but also some key leaders from Congress. And we're joined, for example, here from the ranking member of the Appropriations Subcommittee for the Department of Justice. Congressman Fattah is here, and I'm going to ask in just a minute Secretary Wetzel from Pennsylvania to introduce him. But what I want to say first is that what Congress has done in a series of hearings that occurred, and it was fascinating if you were there. It was a very small hearing room, not many people there, and yet these are the people who are making appropriations decisions for the entire country, spending literally hour after hour focusing on what is it exactly that reduces recidivism, and really getting experts across the country to boil down what are the sort of really clear 3 or 4 things that the research shows us actually need to reduce recidivism, and then making sure that there were the resources there to test and continue to expand on those different elements. And so it's a real honor to be able to have the ranking member of that committee here this morning. I'm going to ask Secretary Wetzel from the Department of Corrections in Pennsylvania, which, as many of you know, one of the largest corrections systems in the country, to introduce our distinguished guests. So Secretary Wetzel.
Good morning. It's certainly my honor and pleasure to introduce Congressman Shaka Fattah. Obviously, when you look around the table at all the guests in this room, clearly corrections has come to the forefront. But even before that was the case, the congressman has been working on these issues, and so have we. But now everybody's talking about it. So I'm so pleased to introduce him. As a ranking member of House Appropriations Subcommittee on Commerce, Justice, and Science, he's been a strong advocate for reducing recidivism and helping individuals come out of prison and jail. And keep in mind, when we say reduce recidivism, we mean create safer communities and reduce crime. And he's worked at that from the time he got to Washington until now. He's provided tremendous leadership on this issue, and as importantly, funding for reentry and recidivism reduction programs, which again, all speak to safer communities, which is what we all are advocating for and pushing for and working for every day. He has a strong advocacy, and we thank you for the robust funding provided to these programs over the past several years, and look forward to you continuing to lead the effort down here in D.C. as we all try to make the United States a better and safer place. So with that, I'd like to introduce Congressman Shaka Fattah and present him with this award from the Justice Center, which says, for your leadership in working with state governments on evidence-based public safety strategies. So join me in welcoming the Congressman. Thank you very much.
Well, good morning. Let me first of all greet each and every one of you and welcome you to your capital city. It is clear that we are willing as a nation, as states and local communities, to do the right thing after we've exhausted every other thing that we could do. And so we have arrived at a moment in which there's a synergy of interests born first out of the cost, and when we see tremendous increases in the cost of corrections, just in the span between '87 and 2007, up from $12 billion to $48 billion. We incarcerate more than 2 million people, more per capita than any other country in the world. And now I think that the opportunity for change has ripened. The appetite has been whet because of the cost and the concerns, in our state, and you've heard from our corrections secretary, but I'm sure in your states you've noticed the distinct difference in the lines related to education versus incarceration. We've seen post-secondary investments go up 100%. At the same time, we've seen correctional expenses go up 300%. So the good news is that we're past reciting the problem. We're actually now focused on solutions. And that's why I am so happy to welcome you. And the Congress, and I know I was given credit for this, but I'm the ranking member. I'm not the chairman. I want to pay appropriate note to the leadership of Frank Wolf, who's the chair of the Appropriations Committee that handles the Justice Department. I lead it for my caucus, and we work together. But this is a very, very important initiative, and the cooperation, the public-private nature of this cooperation, in which you have the federal government, state governments, private foundations like Pew, which, All Politics is Local, is headquartered in Philadelphia. So, but the Council for State Governments is so very important. This collaborative effort speaks well. So let me say a couple things very quickly. What we want to do as we go forward is to find ways to continue to be supportive. And it is true that we have put dollars behind this effort. But it is also true that we are in a very challenging fiscal circumstances. And the fact that we are now in agreement that evidence-based approaches, cost-effective approaches at reducing the rate of incarceration is where we need to be headed. And, I don't want to single any of the states out, but all of you who have been involved in the early part of this effort have seen the results already. And when you start to analyze the difference between, increased supervision and increased supervision plus treatment, there's a vast difference in the result. We know what happens when we provide post-secondary educational opportunities or job training skills. So that when we focus in on where the evidence leads us, we know that we can prevent the reoccurrence of arrests and incarceration in many instances, and have safer communities, and also cut down on the cost. Now, a lot of us talk about cost, but the costs are not just financial when we incarcerate people unnecessarily in our country. The cost to the life circumstances of that person, their family, their community is significant, and we have to weigh all of this. So I just want for you to be encouraged that we're going to continue to work with our friends in the Department of Justice. I think that the Attorney General, Eric Holder, is doing an extraordinary job on behalf of our country, and that his team in the Office of Justice Programs, and you're going to hear from the Assistant Secretary in a few minutes, but that they are doing an extraordinary job of focusing the country on the real critical issues that we have to deal with in the criminal justice system. And the work that you're doing in state governments is vitally important. So we want to continue to work with you. The Second Chance Act, all of these programs are very, very important. And we have put dollars, but we put less dollars. And we need to be putting more emphasis to the degree that we're able to as we go forward. But this is a bipartisan effort. It started as one. And I helped, as a young state legislator more than 20 years ago, create the drug court program in Pennsylvania. I know of the importance of this. But even before I got into public office, my family has been involved in, my parents have been involved in trying to help young people who are juveniles not find themselves on the wrong side of the law. So I know this issue through and through. And I want you to be assured that throughout the country, you have someone here in Washington who wants to work with you as you go about this very important work on behalf of our country. Not just to save money, but to save and improve lives and to make our community safer. We can do that through reinvestment strategies in our criminal justice system, and not just for youthful offenders, even though that's important. We can do it for adult offenders also. And we have to take special attention now to the increases of young women who are being incarcerated in our criminal justice system, and make sure that we have appropriate intervention models to work with populations that are different than, at least in terms of gender, and in other important ways from the populations that have been worked with in the past. So thank you, good morning, and I know you're going to have a productive session. Thank you.
The next person I'm going to introduce is the chair of our board of directors, the board of directors for the Council of State Governments Justice Center. And we have all been thrilled that Representative Pat Colleton from Kansas became our chair because she has a great history, really in a short period of time, of transforming the corrections system in Kansas. Kansans, I think, will agree with me when I say she is really the go-to person in the legislature on corrections issues. And many of you in the states across the country know that when folks have been talking about, show me, you talk to a reporter, show me a state that has actually made significant reductions in recidivism, that went from a state where the prison population was projected to grow significantly, and instead construction plans were canceled, and instead prisons were closed and crime went down. We've pointed to Kansas time and time again. And so, Representative Colleton, we're thrilled that you're going to be able to give some welcoming remarks to the audience, and I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it very much. I know we want to get to our breakout sessions and our panels and get talking about the real meat of this meeting, but I want to just hit a couple of quick points. First of all, we're all dealing with the same situation. We know times are tough. Whether it's in the U.S. Capitol, your state capitol, or my capitol in Topeka, we know that times are tough. Now, our legislative sessions are just around the corner for most of us. For those of you working in two-year budget cycles, painful adjustments are pending in January. The fiscal pressure is acute. laying off staff, cutting services, and other actions that were unthinkable just a few years ago are what we're facing in January. And partisanship has been becoming more and more intense. Now, I'm a Republican from Kansas. Our past board chairman is the longtime chairman of corrections in the New York Assembly, Jeff Aubrey, and he's a Democrat from New York. And so in the Justice Center, bipartisanship has just always been exactly what we went forward with. And working in the states, we always come in a bipartisan manner. But as a Republican, and as everyone in Washington, D.C. knows, there are a few issues on which the R's and the D's are seeing eye to eye right now. But whatever pressures we face, whatever differences we have politically, we in this room at the state level agree that reducing recidivism has to be a top priority. And this event is an extraordinary, unprecedented convening in pursuit of that goal. All 50 states, along with the Bureau of Prisons and other jurisdictions, have sent us extremely busy, highly elected officials and appointed officials from the executive branch, the legislative branch, and the judiciary to talk about both reentry and recidivism. That everyone here has made the time, just as we prepare to make critically important decisions about our states in January, demonstrates how important this issue is to us. We recognize that no matter what the fiscal and political situation in our home jurisdictions, we are elected officials that needed to be focused on public safety and cost cutting. Concentrating on recidivism is one of the major issues that allows us to do both these things. And I think that's such an important message that we have to get out. Reducing recidivism is a way that we will accomplish those twin goals that all of us are dedicated to. Reentry is important to our leaders, as we've just seen in Congress and in the White House. It's no secret that politics seems particularly fractured here in Washington, but as this forum demonstrates, leaders from Congress and the administration continue to provide their bipartisan support for our efforts. We are thrilled to have with us the Assistant U.S. Attorney, Deputy Attorney General Lori Robinson, who heads the Office of Justice Programs, and has been very strong supporter. One of the major reasons that we continue to have the congressional and administrative support. We've had throughout our states a growing momentum on reentry, but we know this window isn't going to stay open very long. We know that improving outcomes for people released from prison has got to be very focused with specific goals if we're really going to keep the momentum behind this and to show that the cost cutting can continue, not just with our reentry efforts, but with our overall recidivism reduction efforts. You are going to hear the word recidivism a lot today. It has different meanings in different states. However, that doesn't matter. What really matters is that we're all focused on ensuring that people released from prison lead crime-free and healthy lives. We'll be hearing from Ryan King at the Pew Center on the states, who will highlight data demonstrating that regardless how a state measures recidivism, policymakers can have an impact on this critical outcomes measure. I really think that the teams that have been working on this and our hope throughout this event that you will think about the current goals in the area of reentry and recidivism for 2012 and the years beyond. It's an ambitious but realistic goal for your state to set a recidivism reduction goal. For those state agencies that already have such goals, how those goals can be shared by other agencies in your state, the legislature, and the judiciary will be the primary focus of the discussions throughout the day. Our objectives are these, to summarize. First, help you think about your state's recidivism reduction goal. Second, update you on the latest research demonstrating what policies can have the greatest impact on recidivism. And three, position you and your team to think about how you can measure your progress in your state so we have objective, measurable outcomes seen by all, legislators, executive, and Washington, to make sure that we have outcome measures that we've been identified that are appropriate for each of our different states. It's a lot to do in one day. We'll make our best effort here. We'll want to connect you with national experts, federal leaders like Lori Robinson, and your peers from across the country. We want you to have time with your individual states' team members, and we've put that into the schedule as well. I want to just thank very quickly, again, the Bureau of Justice Assistance, as well as the Office of Justice Programs that are headed, Bureau of Justice Assistance by Denise O'Donnell and Lori Robinson, of course, at the Office of Justice Programs. And I also want to thank the people that help them, which are Marlene Beckman, Amy Solomon, Ruby Kozelbash, and Dr. Gary Dennis. They are wonderful people at the Department of Justice who are supportive of the states, supportive of these programs, and help us interact with Congress so that we can continue fundings for the states, cities, and counties. In philanthropy, of course, there's the Pew Center and their remarkable Public Safety Performance Project. That has just been a great, dynamic, growing effort throughout to help the states and has had great results in many places. Again, we want the Public Welfare Foundation to know of our deep appreciation. They're able to fund things that the Justice Department, in its restrictions, is not able to. So a good part of this program, or some of this program, is really supplemented by the contributions of the Public Welfare Foundation. I want to thank ASCA. You know, it was some members in ASCA, the secretaries and directors of corrections throughout the United States, who came up with the idea of having this program. And ASCA has just been a tremendous help in putting it together. And then I want to thank my fellow board members of the Justice Center. They have been very busy trying to make sure that the staff at the Justice Center make sure this program is very targeted, that we don't go on and on at the podium with points that don't get right to the issues of recidivism. So I want to thank them for all their individual efforts. They met with Lori Robinson and the Justice Department to organize this program. It's funded by the Justice Department as well as the Pew Center and some of the other private foundations. And I think we've put together a great program. I know the objective we have for today is the absolute most important objective we could have for public safety, and it will allow us to continue a theme that has started throughout the United States, but needs to have more direction and more focus if we're really going to be able to continue to improve public safety. So thank you so much. Appreciate you all being here.
Thank you, Representative Colleton. You can see why we're so thrilled that she is the chair of our board. I now have the pleasure of introducing the Assistant Attorney General, Lori Robinson. Assistant Attorney General Robinson was actually first appointed to her post many years ago under President Clinton, where she actually oversaw the transformation of the Office of Justice Programs after Congress passed its historic crime bill. So she was the one who really put the entire infrastructure together in the Office of Justice Programs that we see today. And it was during that time when we saw this record-breaking expansion in corrections and prison construction that we really started focusing on this term of reentry. I think it's fair to say that before that time, when we heard the word reentry, we were associating it more with space and shuttles reentering the atmosphere. And it was actually during that time, and thanks to Lori Robinson, that reentry literally became the parlance in Congress, in governor's mansions across the country. Of course, it was well known to corrections throughout, but this really mainstreamed the issue. And I know Lori Robinson will give credit to lots of other folks, but frankly, I know many of us in this room see her as the one that was instrumental in putting it on that bipartisan ground so that when there was a change in administrations, this was as much of a Bush initiative as it was a Clinton initiative. And now, as the Assistant Attorney General for the Office of Justice Programs under Attorney General Holder, and for those of you who've been to meetings with Attorney General Eric Holder and Lori Robinson, I've heard Attorney General Holder now on numerous occasions introduce himself as a person who works for Lori Robinson. Really speaks volumes about the kinds of things that she is able to do and lead. I also had the privilege of attending Lori Robinson's swearing-in ceremony, and it was really quite moving to hear Senator Jeff Sessions from Alabama, a Republican, call her the single best appointment that was made by the President to the Department of Justice. He said with all apologies, I think, to Eric Holder, but we all sort of, he was in a very joking way, but extremely complimentary of the decision to be able to convince Lori Robinson to return to the Office of Justice program. So Lori, we're so thrilled to have you here today, and would please share with us your views on this particular issue.
Well, Mike, thank you so much for that very generous introduction. You know, I have to say, in all my years working in this field, this is really an extraordinary gathering. I'm looking out at this audience. I see so many people who I've worked with over so many years. And to have folks here from the leadership in corrections in every state in the union, as Mike and Representative Colleton said, you know, this is a landmark event here. And there have been a lot of congratulations thrown around, but I congratulate all of you with everything on your plates at the state level for taking the time to come here today. And I truly congratulate you. It shows your investment in these issues that you were willing to do that. I also want to thank, in absentia, the members of Congress for their commitment. It was wonderful that Shaka Fattah was able to come here today, and I know that Congressman Wolf, who is the chair of the subcommittee, had also planned to be here and was called away to a meeting of the Republican leadership this morning. But he has been a true stalwart on these issues, something that has really showed his courage and his leadership on this. And it has made a real difference that he has been a leader on these issues. I think Mike would truly agree on that. And it has kind of melded and welded together bipartisan support on this issue that has been truly remarkable and very crucial in forging ahead on this. I think later today you'll be hearing from Senators Portman and Whitehouse, very important leaders on the other side of the Capitol. So each of them has been a leader on these issues on both reentry and recidivism, and have really helped shape policy in this area. I certainly want to also thank Representative Colleton and Mike Thompson. Mike, you have been just a stalwart on these issues as well, and have shown just tremendous leadership from the Council of State Governments, Justice Center, and you know, we couldn't ask for a more strategic partner on these things. I'm always annoyed at Mike, though. He never seems to look older than 29. Have you all noticed that? I mean, somehow it never seems to wear on him, this work. But I also want to mention the Pew Center on the States, as they both did, and the Public Welfare Foundation, both wonderful colleagues in this work, as well as the Association of State Correctional Administrators, ASCA, who we've worked with over many years, great partners. And I want them to know on behalf of the Department of Justice how much we really depend on and value their guidance and support. Now, I also want to mention a few of my colleagues in the Department of Justice who have just been wonderful, wonderful advisors to work with. One of them, my wonderful colleague, Denise O'Donnell, Director of BJA. Denise, please stand up. Let's give you a round of applause. Since Denise came to OJP, was confirmed by the Senate last summer, I've just enjoyed working with her so much. She has a long history of experience in criminal justice that she's brought to working with us, and that's just been great. And I also want to mention wonderful advisors in my own office, Marlene Beckman and Amy Solomon, who know these issues inside and out. I'd like both of them to stand in the back of the room. You know, it is really remarkable to me, as I said, having spent so many years working in criminal justice, now to look back at the last decade or so and to see the incredible progress that the corrections field has made. When I did serve back in the 90s under Attorney General Janet Reno, and it was my colleague, Jeremy Travis, who headed the National Institute of Justice at that time, who came up with the notion of reentry and really, in my view, put that into our lexicon. It was his leadership in this area. And of course, today, as we well know, there is a reentry point person in every state in the Union, and it is something that is well known to policy people even outside our field. So that is tremendous progress, and we've seen such broad bipartisan support for the Second Chance Act, as we've all been saying this morning, and for justice reinvestment. But at the end of the day, what we want to see is not just more reentry programming, but better reentry outcomes, and ultimately, of course, lower recidivism. So in many ways, you all are victims of your own success. We're reaching the point now where the mandate for corrections has evolved from keeping criminals off the street to nothing less than improving public safety after release. Our performance is now being measured not in terms of who we bring in, but how many we're able to keep out. Recidivism reduction, I think, is the new metric. The definition of recidivism, of course, is going to vary from jurisdiction to jurisdiction, but I think we can all agree on a bottom line. We don't want inmates coming out of prison, committing more crimes, and then going back. Clearly, responsibility for this belongs to many actors in the criminal justice system and in human services. We all have a stake in this. But like it or not, at the federal, state, and local levels, people are going to be turning to corrections, and specifically to corrections directors, for answers. So in many ways, I'd say that this does parallel the seismic shift that we saw in policing and in policing philosophy back in the 1980s. If we reflect back on that, that's the time when community policing was coming to the fore. But prior to that, law enforcement was expected simply to react to crime and enforce the law, but there was really little accountability for reductions in crime by law enforcement. But at that time, things began to change in that field. Today, we can't imagine a conversation with a police chief that doesn't involve a discussion of crime rates. And I think that's now the direction that we're heading in corrections. The good news is that answers exist. We know a great deal about what works. And I think one thing we can point to is that excellent report that emerged from the Justice Reinvestment Summit that came out early this year. It talked about 4 core strategies that can help ensure effectiveness. First, we need to focus on those most likely to offend. And risk instruments, of course, need to guide that work. Second, we need to adopt programs and approaches based in sound science, and we need to ensure quality. Third, we need effective community supervision. And fourth, we need to target resources to places where most crime is committed. Now, states and localities that have adopted these strategies are making good progress in terms of both reduced costs and less crime. So we need to figure out how to expand those practices, and of course that's why we're here today. I'm proud that the Department of Justice and this administration have been part of the movement to find answers. We're directing a lot of energy and resources to supporting local programs and state-level policy changes that make better use of limited public dollars. Many of you probably know that the Attorney General is chairing a federal Interagency Reentry Council at the cabinet level that's been working to coordinate federal activities related to prisoner reentry. This is a high-level group, as I said, of cabinet members and department heads, and it's across 18 federal agencies. It's really a terrific group to get to sit with that kind of collaboration of agencies. Amy and Marlene had a staff-level group that supports and parallels the council. And through their efforts, we're making tremendous headway in untangling, clarifying, and in some cases actually changing policies in a way that support community reentry efforts. Under the Second Chance Act that Denise's office is administering, we're supporting more than 370 adult and juvenile reentry programs across the country. And these address everything from employment and housing to substance abuse treatment and family reunification. We're also supporting the National Reentry Resource Center that serves as a one-stop shop for information and technical assistance. And I'm excited that in the coming weeks, as part of the Resource Center, we're going to be opening a What Works library. That'll be serving as an online searchable guide for practitioners on evidence-based reentry practices. We're also seeing some great things being accomplished through our Justice Reinvestment Initiative that a number of speakers have referenced. And that's something that's certainly been championed, as the Congressman talked about on Capitol Hill. This is an unprecedented bipartisan effort, as you know, that's aimed specifically at reducing recidivism and correctional costs while limiting our reliance on incarceration. So these are some of the highlights of our work to address reentry and recidivism outcomes. We've also been working hard on ways to help you beyond grants and technical assistance. And I know Denise is going to be here this afternoon speaking to unveil some new opportunities as well. But as pleased as I am about this work we're doing at the Department of Justice level, the success that we're seeing in the field certainly is due not to our efforts at the federal government level. It's really the work that you all are doing in the states. We want to be building on the success that you all are having out there. That's really what it's about. There's no doubt we're making very good progress, but clearly, collectively, there's much more to be done. So I think we're here together to share what we've learned and to think about what elements should be part of our future plans to reduce recidivism. We need to begin to develop explicit strategies that will help us meet the expectations the public have for us. We've done a great job orienting corrections in the criminal justice field as a whole around reentry, and now is the time, I think, to commit to public safety as our collective goal. I suspect we have the support we need to accomplish this, both from Congress and the administration. And judging by your presence here today, corrections leaders in this nation and other state champions seem to be determined to find ways to make our systems accountable for the safety of our communities. I think our work here today marks the beginning of a major undertaking. So I applaud all of you for thinking big and for your willingness to come together to find solutions that work for all of us and for the communities that we serve. No one is saying this work will be easy, and in fact, I think it probably won't be. But I do look forward to the great things that can come out of this and that we can accomplish together as we move ahead. Thank you so much.